1972 was the year the muscle car died. The Chevrolet Chevelle SS, once America's favorite street fighter, limped into showrooms as a shadow of its former self. Emissions regulations had strangled performance so thoroughly that the super sport was slower than economy cars, weaker than grandfather's hot rods, and embarrassing to drive. Here are 20 bizarre facts about the saddest chapter in muscle car history. 1. The SS lost 200 horsepower overnight. The devastating transition from 1971 to 1972 saw the legendary LS6 454 engine drop from 425 gross horsepower to a pathetic 270 net horsepower rating, representing one of automotive history's most dramatic performance collapses. While some of this difference resulted from new SAE net rating standards, the real-world power loss was still catastrophic due to emissions equipment and reduced compression ratios. Customers who had grown accustomed to tire-shredding acceleration discovered their new muscle cars struggled to chirp the tires from a standing start. 2. You could order an SS with a 6-cylinder engine. Chevrolet's marketing department, desperate to maintain SS sales numbers, allowed buyers to order the Supersport package with a 250 cubic inch inline-6 engine producing a laughable 110 horsepower. This created the automotive oxymoron of a performance package powered by an economy engine that delivered worse acceleration than most family sedans. The 6-cylinder SS represented everything wrong with 1970s automotive marketing, selling heritage and appearance while delivering disappointment. These contradictory cars embarrassed the SS legacy while confusing customers about what super sport actually meant. 3. The base V8 made less power than a 1955 Chevy. The 1972 Chevelle's standard 307 cubic inch V8 produced only 130 net horsepower, significantly less than the 162 plus horsepower that 1955 Chevrolets generated with primitive carburation and ignition systems. 17 years of supposed automotive progress had resulted in engines that were actually weaker than their grandfather's generation, creating the absurd situation where classic car enthusiasts could outrun new car buyers. This backwards evolution demonstrated how emissions regulations had overwhelmed engineering advancement, turning modern power plants into shadows of earlier designs. 4. Chevrolet stopped publishing. Acceleration. Times GM's marketing department made the unprecedented decision to stop releasing official acceleration figures because the numbers were too embarrassing to advertise in a performance-conscious market. 0 to 60 times exceeding 10 seconds became the new normal for cars wearing SS badges, making quarter-mile performance discussions impossible without revealing the extent of the performance disaster. This advertising blackout represented corporate acknowledgement that their muscle cars could no longer compete with their own earlier models, much less contemporary foreign competition threatening American automotive supremacy. 5. The SS 454 was slower than a Volkswagen Beetle. Contemporary road tests revealed that emissions-strangled SS 454 models were running quarter-mile times in the 16 to 17-second range, making them slower than Volkswagen Beetles and most economy cars from competing manufacturers. The massive 454 cubic inch engine, once capable of 13-second quarter miles, had been so thoroughly neutered by smog equipment that it delivered performance comparable to compact cars costing half as much. This humiliation marked the official end of the muscle car era, as American performance cars could no longer outrun German economy vehicles. 6. Every engine had smog equipment. Worth more than the car. The complex emissions control systems required on 1972 Chevelles included catalytic converters, EGR valves, air injection pumps, and thermal reactors that added over $800 to manufacturing costs per vehicle. This maze of pollution equipment often cost more than the actual engine to produce, creating the bizarre economic situation where smog controls were more expensive than the power plants they were designed to clean up. The reliability nightmare of interconnected vacuum lines, sensors, and pumps made these cars maintenance disasters that required EPA-certified technicians to service properly. 7. The cowl induction hood became purely decorative. The famous cowl induction hood that had provided functional ram air breathing in previous years was transformed into a completely non-functional styling exercise for 1972 emissions compliance. The hood scoop was sealed shut, serving no purpose except creating the visual illusion of performance that no longer existed under the hood. Customers paid extra for this cosmetic deception, receiving fake performance styling that actually hurt aerodynamics while providing zero functional benefit. The transformation from functional ram air to decorative fakery symbolized everything wrong with 1970s muscle car marketing. 8. Gas mileage actually got worse, despite less power. The cruel irony of emissions regulations was that 1972 Chevelles achieved worse fuel economy than their more powerful predecessors, with typical big block models struggling to exceed 8 to 10 miles per gallon in normal driving. The complex emissions equipment created internal engine restrictions and parasitic power losses that forced engines to work harder while producing less usable power. Environmental regulations designed to reduce pollution were actually making cars less environmentally friendly through increased fuel consumption, creating a regulatory paradox that satisfied neither environmentalists nor performance enthusiasts. 9. Compression ratios dropped to lawnmower levels. The mighty 454 big block engines that had once run 11.25.1 compression ratios were reduced to a pathetic 8.5.1 compression for 1972, lower than many contemporary lawnmower engines and garden equipment power plants. This dramatic reduction was necessary for regular unleaded gasoline compatibility and emissions compliance, but it eliminated the high compression efficiency that made big blocks effective. The engines no longer sounded powerful, felt responsive, or delivered the torque characteristics that defined American V8 performance, becoming hollow shadows of their former selves. 10. The SS badge became an embarrassment. Chevrolet's sales staff began actively avoiding performance discussions when selling SS models, instead focusing on appearance packages, comfort features, and styling elements that didn't require explaining away the performance deficits. The Supersport designation that had once commanded respect at drag strips and street corners became a marketing liability that dealers struggled to justify to knowledgeable customers. The SS badge evolved from a performance guarantee into a nostalgic styling accessory, representing heritage rather than capability in a market that was rapidly abandoning traditional muscle car values. 11. Dealers couldn't give away. SS models, Chevrolet dealerships across America found themselves stuck with massive inventories of unsold SS models that customers simply didn't want at any reasonable price point. Discounts of 30 to 40% below MSRP became commonplace as dealers desperately tried to move stagnant performance car inventory that was tying up valuable floor plan financing. The muscle car market had collapsed so completely that cars which had once commanded premium prices and waiting lists were now considered unsellable white elephants that damaged dealer profitability and showroom traffic flow. 12. Insurance companies stopped caring about SS models. The performance deficit was so dramatic that insurance companies began classifying SS Chevelle as standard family cars rather than high-risk performance vehicles, resulting in lower insurance premiums for the first time in muscle car history. Actuaries recognized that SS badges no longer correlated with dangerous speeds or reckless driving behavior, treating them like appearance packages rather than performance modifications. This insurance relief provided the only financial benefit of owning a 1972 SS, as the reduced risk classification helped offset the model's other disappointments. 13. The heavy Chevy outsold the SS. Chevrolet's budget-oriented heavy Chevy package, which offered basic performance upgrades without SS premium pricing, consistently outsold the traditional Supersport models as customers rejected paying extra for heritage alone. The heavy Chevy delivered similar real-world performance at a significantly lower price point, making the SS premium impossible to justify for rational buyers. This sales reversal demonstrated that the muscle car market had become price-sensitive rather than image-driven, with customers prioritizing value over traditional performance hierarchy and brand prestige. 14. Chevrolet offered more station wagon options than SS engines. Corporate priorities had shifted so dramatically toward family utility that Chevrolet developed more station wagon variants than performance engine options for the SS line, reflecting the complete abandonment of the enthusiast market. The wagon lineup received more engineering attention and marketing support than performance models, as General Motors acknowledged that practical transportation had become more profitable than speed. This resource allocation demonstrated that muscle car development was no longer considered a worthwhile corporate investment compared to family-oriented vehicle segments. 15. Many SS cars were converted to wagons. Desperate dealers began performing unauthorized bodywork conversions, transferring SS mechanical components into station wagon bodies to create the utility vehicles that customers actually wanted to buy. These Frankenstein conversions allowed dealers to move SS inventory while providing customers with the practical transportation they demanded rather than the performance disappointment they were avoiding. The conversions represented the ultimate admission that SS performance hardware was more valuable when divorced from traditional muscle car styling and marketing positioning. 16. The 1972 SS was the last real Chevelle muscle car. The 1972 model year marked the absolute end of the Chevelle's performance legacy, as 1973 would eliminate the 454 big block option entirely and reduce the SS to a purely cosmetic package. Contemporary automotive journalists recognized they were witnessing automotive history's conclusion, with Car and Driver declaring the muscle car era officially dead in their 1972 Chevelle review. Collectors today didn't realize they were witnessing the final chapter of American performance, as most enthusiasts assumed the downturn was temporary rather than permanent. The 1972 SS represented the last gasp of an automotive philosophy that would never return. 17. Production numbers were deliberately hidden. Chevrolet made the unprecedented decision to stop publishing specific SS production figures because the embarrassingly low sales numbers would have publicly confirmed the muscle car market's complete collapse. Internal documents reveal that SS sales had dropped over 80% from peak years, but Chevrolet refused to release these statistics to automotive press or industry analysts. This deliberate secrecy prevented public acknowledgement of the performance car segment's death while protecting Chevrolet from admitting their most famous performance model had become commercially irrelevant. Modern researchers still struggle to determine exact 1972 SS production quantities due to this corporate cover-up. 18. Most 1972 SS models were immediately modified. The majority of 1972 SS buyers began removing emissions equipment within weeks of purchase, creating a thriving aftermarket industry dedicated to illegal desmogging services that violated federal environmental regulations. Performance shops openly advertised emissions delete packages that promised to restore some semblance of muscle car performance through catalytic converter removal and carburetor modifications. These widespread federal law violations demonstrated customer rejection of government-mandated performance restrictions, but also created legal liability for both owners and service providers who risked substantial EPA fines for environmental compliance violations. 19. The SS option became a $99 appearance package. By late 1972, Chevrolet had reduced the legendary Supersport designation to a basic $99 appearance package consisting primarily of decals, stripes, and minor trim pieces with no meaningful mechanical upgrades. This cheapening of the SS heritage represented corporate acknowledgement that performance was no longer marketable, while the minimal price reflected the package's purely cosmetic nature. Traditional muscle car buyers felt betrayed by this deception, as SS badges were being applied to economy car powertrains that couldn't justify the performance reputation built over previous decades of legitimate high-performance engineering. 20. Chevrolet executives publicly apologized for the SS. In an unprecedented corporate admission, Chevrolet executives publicly acknowledged that the 1972 SS had failed to meet customer expectations or uphold the model's performance legacy. Internal memos expressed genuine regret over regulatory compliance that had destroyed everything that made Chevrolet performance special. while promising future performance cars when environmental regulations might be relaxed. This corporate apology represented the first time an American manufacturer had officially admitted that government interference had crippled their products. But the promised performance renaissance would never materialize as regulations only became more restrictive throughout the 1970s. The 1972 Chevelle SS proves that even legends can die ugly deaths. This wasn't just the end of a car, it was the end of an era when American iron ruled the streets. Hit that subscribe button to discover more stories about the cars that changed everything and the regulations that killed them.